All right, welcome back to the channel. It's your boy Fanon, and in this video, we're going to talk about the 135, 140-pound division with Gary Russell Jr. calling out Devin Haney or putting Devin Haney on blast, and it ain't about a fight with him. It's about a fight with his brother. To me, I find that very, very hilarious and something that is very, very real. Let's talk about that in this video. All right, welcome back to the channel. It's your boy Fanon, and in this video, we're going to talk about the 140-pound division and the 135-pound division. Gary Russell Jr. had a message for Devin Haney about what he ain't going to be able to do relative to the Russell family. Before I get into that, though, let me welcome you back to the channel. If you are new to the channel, welcome to the channel. Thank you so much for checking out the video. Please accept my invitation to hit that subscribe button, hit that bell icon so you can be notified of when we release more videos. All right. And also, if you're a longtime subscriber and supporter of the channel, thank you guys so much. You guys are really what keeps the channel going. Thank you so much for your ongoing support. Even if I may nag at you a little bit or we all disagree about one subject or another, your support cannot be replaced. Thank you guys so much for everything that you do. So let's get into this. This is funny to me. Because it's true. It is, there's a saying in my fraternity, hard but fair, sad but true. And this is hard, but it's fair. It ain't sad, but it is true. Devin Haney is the 135-pound lightweight champion, undisputed lightweight champion of the world. And not too long ago, maybe about 2 years ago, year and a half ago, he was in a altercation in an argument with the former 126-pound champion, Gary Russell Jr., about whether or not they would have a fight at 135 pounds. The fight wound up not taking place, right? And I'm not going to get into who was right or who was wrong, because trust me, if you've been on this channel at the time or knew about that, it was a whole big thing about contracts and, you know, who was cap and who was ducking and all kind of different stuff, right? However, today, Gary Russell Jr. brought it back up, and he brought it back up in the lead into a fight that is taking place this weekend with another Gary Russell, but Gary Antuanne Russell, who is at 140 pounds and will be fighting Ramses Bartholomew on the undercard of the Danny Garcia versus Jose Benavidez fight that will be on Showtime. And what he said was, he was asked about what first of all, Gary Antuanne Russell was actually asked whether or not he could fight at 135 pounds. And he said, look, when I get my job done at 140 pounds and I get my hands on these belts at 140 pounds, I very well may move down to 135 pounds and fight those guys for those belts at 135 pounds, because I'm weighing in at my fights at 137 pounds, 138.5. That's nothing for me to make 135 pounds. I just started my career and I'm campaigning at 140 pounds. What Gary Russell Jr. said was, look, you know, it's going to be, he was asked about Ryan Garcia, and the first thing he said is, look, man, Gary Antuanne Russell will destroy Ryan Garcia. Ain't no way that fight is going to go to distance between Gary Antuanne Russell and Ryan Garcia. They acted like that fight was a joke, and he said it. And then Gary's like, look, man, and the funny thing is, all these other people that were doing all that talking about me, avoiding fighting me or ducking fighting me, right? All the stuff that these dudes are talking is funny that you cannot escape you're not going to be able to escape this bloodline. And he specifically mentioned Devin Haney and said Devin Haney cannot avoid his brother. When he goes up to 140 pounds, there ain't no way he's going to be getting out of making that fight with Gary Antuanne Russell. And honestly, it's funny because it is something that Devin Haney's team said that they would do. Before they got the fight with George Kambosos, Bill Haney, the manager, father, or I believe the manager and the father of Devin Haney and the head of Devin Haney of Haney Promotions, said that they would go up there and fight Gary Antuanne Russell. And I think that it is pretty much an interesting thing to make that fight happen. And I think that's pretty much all that would be right, man. It would be a serious test for Devin Haney to see if he would be able to beat Gary Antuanne Russell. And this is why I think more than likely that he's going to get aimed at that fight. Because Devin right now has all the belts at 135 pounds. He's going to fight George Kambosos. The word is that he's going to be fighting October 16th in Sydney, Australia. Devin said that was not true, that he had not heard anything about that. But, man, come on, man. This is boxing. He already had a rematch clause with George Kambosos. Their team does not have $10 million step aside money to make that fight go away. And even if he did, he would still have to fight under his contract with ESPN, or his contract with Top Rank. So, he's either going to do that or he's going to have to go to 140 pounds. Now, if he goes up to 140 pounds, Gary Antuanne Russell is already there and already going to be very high in the rankings. I didn't check the ranking for him before I made this video, but with wins over in his last fight against Victor Postol, and if he's able to beat Ranzis Bartholomew in this fight, he's going to wind up being in the top 5, top 4 of several sanctioning bodies looking to get his hands or a title shot on 2 of those vacant belts that are out there right now. I can't recall which one it was that I know for sure. One is the WBA, because Josh Taylor was supposed to be fighting for the WBA title, but he didn't, and so the WBA stripped him. I'm not sure of the other belt that he may have dropped, but 2 of those belts are out there available. Gary Antuanne Russell is probably the top young 140 pounder that the PBC has, and those guys have enough clout to get him a shot at one of those belts. If he winds up being a contender for one of those belts and getting a shot at that belt, I don't see unless Devin Haney re-signs with Top Rank, how he's going to be able to do anything but go try to get shots over there for those belts at the PBC. And it really doesn't matter any way it goes, because as far as whether or not Devin Haney fights George Kambosos or whether he fights Lomachenko next, any way it goes, in a year, after another 2 fights, he's going to be up at 140 pounds. You can really tell that his weight is like, that basically he looks very, very drained when he weighs in. And he is a guy that's going to be at 147 pounds. I suspect, however, though, that he's going to be at 140 pounds for a good amount of time, because those guys up there at 147 pounds are really not to be played with lightly. Guys like Jaron Ennis, if you're trying to get a fight with Jaron Ennis, or guys like Virgil Ortiz, or even a speedy Rashidi Ellis, those guys are very, very big 147 pounders. And I doubt that they're going to move, that Haney's going to be moving up there like that. He'll probably be at 140. And that fight right there with Gary Antuanne Russell is most definitely a real one, and one that probably, it would be very, very hard to avoid, especially because the chances are that Gervonta Davis would get a shot, except for maybe for the WBO, because I'm not sure whether or not the WBO is going to give Devin Haney super champion status. If he gives him super champion status, then he should be able to just move up and fight for the WBO belt, straight away. But I haven't heard that they've done that. But whatever the case is, they're probably going to wind up being champions there at the same time. And that is a fight that should and could be made. And Gary Russell Jr. calling for it, that is something that they're going to really, really push for, especially if Devin gets a belt first, or even if Gary Antuanne Russell gets a belt first, we'll still be looking for that fight with Haney. So it's going to be interesting. Hopefully we'll get to see that fight be made, because both those guys are very, very good fighters. I'm not going to tell you who I think is going to win. Devin Haney is definitely a very, very solid fighter. Gary Antuanne Russell, is still out there, is more of a contender status, even though he's been knocking out everybody he fights. And if he gets rid of Ramses Bartholomew, I'm going to be like, yeah, man, you might as well go ahead and let that guy jump out there for a fight. Because I believe Ramses Bartholomew is a very tough, awkward, very, very solid fighter. But he will definitely blow away Ryan Garcia. And Ryan Garcia ain't trying to have nothing. He ain't trying to see Gary Antuanne Russell no way, shape, or form. But anyway, it is what it is. And with that, you let me know what you think in the comment section. Peace.